Defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! He's going with a shot from Curry. From Diddley D.
Welcome back to Nick Thomas on the NBA. I'm excited for our first live show over here on the YouTube. We're on Twitter as well. I'm excited to welcome in Evan Hale, my good friend within the industry. Evan, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm really excited for today and the topics we're going to be talking about.
Sir, thanks for having me. I love talking to you, Nick. Talking ball with you is like one of my favorite things to do. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Obviously, we've both been working together for a little bit with Every Hornets box score. And we've been close for quite a while now, going back. But how you been, man? How's your day been? I mean, obviously, you're just waking up. My day's wrapping up.
Yeah.
How you been?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. I'm great. It's life's been so interesting. I got credentialed with the Hornets this year, so I've been doing a lot of that, and that's just been like the coolest thing in the world. Like, it's every time I get my media pass, I'm just sitting there. Like, I was courtside of the game, this last game against the Nuggets. And I talked to Ish Smith for like 10 minutes. He was the nicest dude. Like, he was just, the stuff you get the access to it's just surreal. It's never not the coolest thing in the world.
That's crazy, man. I'm jealous. I'll be honest. I'm very, very jealous. One day.
It's gonna happen.
Now I'm stuck with NBL for now. But anyway, man, we got some great topics to talk about today. In particular, we're gonna be covering LaMelo Ball and his future with the franchise. We'll be discussing a few potential trades. Brandon Miller and his potential and what he can be. And, of course, the star of the show, can Kon Knueppel become the face of this franchise, right? Evan, why don't you kick things off, right? I mean, you've been following the Hornets longer than I have, right? I mean, just by lifespan, right?
Yes.
Why don't you kind of walk me through your emotions as a lifelong Hornets fan as to how this LaMelo situation is going and how it's playing out and your feelings towards him?
I will always love LaMelo Ball. I need to say that like outright. Like, LaMelo Ball, so much fun to watch. He's been so good for Charlotte at times. But I'll say it like this: when I got the notification on my phone that he might want to request out, my first thought wasn't like, oh no, it was kind of like, oh, I guess this is about that time, right? That was kind of my mindset. I was like, oh, I guess this is when it happens. Because it doesn't feel like he's going to be in Charlotte forever. And his value goes down every year. I mean, he hasn't played more than like 60 games, but his sophomore year, his rookie year, it was a shortened season. So you got to give him a little bit there because it was the COVID year. Or the year after the COVID year, but it was a shorter season.
Yeah. But
he hasn't played more than 47 games since then, actually, which is just crazy to me. And it's one of those things. Like, I love watching him play basketball, but his drawbacks at this point are almost worse than his what he accomplishes for you. And there's not like to say he's all bad. Like, our offense flows so much better, especially like facilitating wise when he's on the court. But I also say like the other guards who facilitate on this team. Yeah, exactly. They're calling section of Trey Mann, who are ball stoppers, which only makes it feel that much worse. So you feel that, feel that he's creating for everybody. I just, I'm trying to pull up the stats here. He's a relatively inefficient shooter. I mean, he's shooting 38% from the field this year. I'll round up 39% from the field this year. Like, your franchise cornerstone can't be doing that. He's only averaging 19 points per game this year. And he plays best when he's got talent around him. Like, that first game of the year is the least shots he put up all season. And that was like one of his best games. It's just like, he'll give you an amazing game. Like, he'll give you, I think that was from the 50-point game right there that he had. But he'll give you a 50-point game, or he'll give you like, a 38-point triple-double. But then he'll give you like, 7 missed ridiculously deep threes in the next game, and you get pissed off at him. And, you're 100%, like, what are you doing? And
that's my problem, right? For every kind of 32, 12 and 7 game that you get from LaMelo, you're gonna get a 14, 6 and 2 on 30% from the field game, right? And that's just kind of it's unsustainable to try and build and mold a team around a guy that is that inconsistent on a game-to-game basis. And that, as you said, right, he's a true connector for the team. The offense flows better with him there. And that's undeniable, right? Whether he could shoot 10% from the field, and the offense looks a lot better with him out there on the floor. That's undeniable, right? However, I think the alternative to that is, rather than kind of building around LaMelo and investing on this LaMelo, maybe you find someone less talented than LaMelo, right? Who can be that connector and be the guy that makes the offense flow and creates offense and moves the ball and gets everything, going well and flowing well. Maybe he doesn't have the upside, but he's a lot more consistent, right? And that's kind of where I'm looking now, to where you got LaMelo. He's shooting 48% on twos and 28% on threes. That's your franchise cornerstone player. You can't count on him when he's on the floor, and you can't count on him to be on the floor.
Yeah.
And this is the guy you're molding your franchise around. And I just struggle to see the vision, I guess, with LaMelo Ball going and the Charlotte Hornets as a partnership going forward.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, I'll say it like this. I had to just a little story from being at the Hornets games. This last game I went to, Josh Green was warming up. Shout out Australia, right? Josh Green was warming up, and he didn't play obviously, but he's come back from an injury. And Rick Schnall, one of the Hornets owners, he was there, and him and I had built relationships since I've been going to games. And he'll approach me at games. So I'm watching the Josh Green warm up. He comes up, says hi. I say hello, and I'm like, "Isn't this awesome?" Watching him warm up. I'm so happy to see him coming back. And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, and he looked at me. He's like, "You can't win with how injured we constantly are." And we were talking, and I asked him about Grant Williams. He's probably about 2 to 4 weeks out. He's probably closer to 4 weeks, but he's getting there. But he made a couple comments about how this team, you can't win when you're injured. He said when your team is this hurt and you're relying this much on rookie minutes, you can't win. And I mean, obviously we were missing Colin Sexton, Trey Mann. We were missing Grant Williams, Josh Green, LaMelo Ball, and Moussa Diabate. We were missing, those are all, that's your starter bench level guys, Yeah. It's not like, the end of it. I mean, Pat Connaughton, he's the end of the bench guy, but the other 5 names I named are all that's half of the lineup. And the way he said it, I think I made a joke death, taxes, and injuries, right, with this team, just being funny, because that's all you can do is be funny about it. And he was like, he was yeah, but it almost felt like a little slight to LaMelo because he is always out. But I could be taking it that way personally. But to piggyback off that, I'm going to keep talking about LaMelo, but he made an interesting comment to me. We were talking because it was right after, Franz Wagner had just got hurt, and we thought he tore his ACL, right? It was that day, and I was like, "Oh, did you see the Franz injury?" We were talking about draft picks, and he mentioned, we have our pick plus the worst swap between it was Phoenix, Memphis, and Orlando. And I mentioned, "Oh yeah, Franz got hurt." He's like, "Yeah, I think he tore his ACL." And we were talking about how that's another pick, and it sounds like they're already focused on the draft. If that makes any sense, they're already looking past this season, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, there were some real high hopes for the Hornets coming into the season, and obviously, injuries or not, things haven't gone our way. And I guess, how are you looking kind of forward, right? I mean, the Hornets are still only 2.5 games out of the play-in, right? We have a number of guys coming back from injury. Josh Green, Grant Williams. These aren't superstar names. These are guys that can seriously swing games on a game-to-game basis. These are guys that make the difference. These are the guys that make life easier for guys like LaMelo, for guys like Brandon, for guys like Kon, right? And I mean, do you see this team? Let's say Grant Williams comes back, Josh Green comes back. Do you see this team as a potential play-in contender, or do you see this team as another wasted year, just trying to get more talent from the draft?
I definitely see this team as a play-in team, especially with the whole Giannis situation. I also joke with the owner, I'm like, "Hey, you guys ready for Giannis?" And he laughed, said, "That's gonna be tough." We had that little moment, which was funny, but it's definitely more of a play-in team. I see us will probably end the season as the 11th seed in the East. But if Giannis gets moved, the Bucks aren't doing anything, right? If that's just almost a fact of life. And they're already barely ahead of us. The Bulls are falling off the cliff. I mean, Franz didn't tear his ACL, but he's still out for like a month or two. You know, the Magic where, you know, their offense looked terrible as it was with him, even with him on the floor. So, I mean, there was a world where these teams fall off, and as the Hornets are getting healthy. And I think that maybe they're playing it like, hey, let's just, earlier in the season, we're going to, you know, if guys aren't feeling it, let them not feel it and sit them out. And then if we get healthy and we start winning games, maybe we start like, you know, hey, maybe play through that. Like, that's just kind of what I'm thinking that might be going on. But, you know, there's a world where this team could go on a little bit of a run once everybody's healthy. I mean, T-John's been great, but Grant Williams is significantly better than T-John's a lot. You know, Josh Green, like, I've loved Liam McNeely. Josh Green is better than Liam McNeely.
Yeah,
you know?
man, and I think it's important that we can get some of these guys back. I mean, even long term, right? Sending guys like Liam to the G League is so beneficial.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, you see a top pick, a first round pick, get sent to the G League, right? That notification hits your timeline on Twitter, and immediately you have all these people trolling, right? 6 figures in the G League, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, look what the G League did for Mark Williams. That's just the first example off the top of my head, right? The G League can be so beneficial for these guys. It gives guys a chance to build their confidence, get reps, actually play kind of the role they would be playing at their peak, and get reps at that, and the team get a look at how they fit into that role. And that worked for Tijan, right? I mean, he was going off in the G League, right?
And then he went off when he got back.
Yeah, exactly. And then he gets back, and look how much better he looks. Of course, he has, you know, a couple of viral moments like that mistake on defense in transition. But overall, man, like, he's been great since he came back. These stints in the G League can be so beneficial for these younger guys, and I think, yeah, based on what we saw from him in the Summer League, Liam can be one of those guys when we send him to the G League for 2 months, you know, an extended period of time, let him chuck as many shots as he wants, get as many reps as he needs, and he'll come back a lot stronger for it. And that's kind of the added benefit of having these other guys back, to where it doesn't just mean, you know, you're preventing the growth of your first round picks like Liam McNeely. It's not getting in the way of that. I actually think it's promoting the growth of them, right?
Exactly.
I'm a big believer in the G League and the development it can provide.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge G League guy. Like, I think Liam McNeely is somebody I would love to see play in the G. I mean, he's got, like, I would say Liam McNeely has like Gordon Hayward, like, upside, if that makes any sense. Like, a guy like, kind of like a little bit of a point forward, can space the floor, you know, decent size, you know, something like that. You know, just he has that upside. If he can just get more comfortable with the ball in his hands against professional talent. I mean, you've seen it with Tijan, and Tijan was so raw. Like, Liam is a lot less raw than him. If he can just get in there and, you know, refine, you know, I think he'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like, Liam was one of those guys at Summer League where he just really impressed. You know, he displayed a little bit of everything. He showed that he could be put on the floor, and whatever the team needed him to do, he could do. He displayed passing and playmaking, both as a lead guy and as a connector, right? He displayed shooting off the catch and off the dribble. He played solid defense. Anything that was asked of him, anything that the team needed in that moment, he was able to go out there and do for you. And I think that, you know, given the reps, given the chance to grow over a number of years, you know, between the G League and the NBA, he could turn into a really, really beneficial role player. You know, down the line when this Hornets team actually looks to, you know, potentially compete. I mean, I know it sounds crazy because the Hornets have never competed, but yeah, there is a world where next year, the year after, this is a legitimate team in an Eastern Conference, right? And having guys like, you know, he being on the 27th pick with Liam McNeely, and he works out, I mean, that can be the difference between, you know, a 7 seed, a perennial 7 seed, and a team that's consistently a top 4 to, you know, 3 or 4 seed, right? These are the kind of moves that can shape your franchise, and I feel like the growth, I mean, I know we're going a little bit off topic here, but the growth of guys like Liam is going to be very, very important to the future of this franchise. But we'll go back to LaMelo now. Obviously, that was the topic of the main topic of discussion. As you said, and has been reported, he is open, and I quote, open to a trade away from the Hornets. Now, that report was from Kelly Eco. LaMelo obviously came out and refuted that claim, which to be expected, right? I mean, it feels about time. It feels right. So I do kind of believe the report. Have you given any thought, I guess, to LaMelo and what a potential trade could look like?
LaMelo is one of those pieces that I know his value is lower than what I probably would value him at. I would rather go, I would rather acquire, draft capital that could have a little bit of swing to it. No, I don't think anybody thought that the pick that we got in the Mark Williams trade last year, I don't think people thought the pick would be looking this good right now, So maybe go get a couple more picks like that. Or that was from that trade, right? Was that from that trade, or was that from the Cody?
That was the Yusuf Nurkic trade.
The Nurkic trade.
Yes.
We got a first out of that?
I believe that's expected to be pick 20 now.
It was a swap with the Phoenix and Memphis and Orlando.
Yeah, it's best of. It's worst of Magic, Grizzlies, Suns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what have you? Picks like that can have swing value, and maybe some young guys who have the potential. How we got Trey Mann in the Gordon Hayward trade. I trust this front office's vision on guys when they make trades. I feel like they've won every trade they've made just about. So I trust that they will make the right trade, but it just really depends on what is traded for. I would like some draft capital and some guys who have some potential or at least can play now. I would like a point guard back just to have the offense continue to run. Because I like Colin Sexton, I like Trey Mann, but I don't like them as the primary ball handler for my franchise.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the way I personally look at it, and people are going to call me crazy for this, right? And this is hard for me because LaMelo was actually the reason I fell in love with basketball. Him being here in Australia, he was the first live game I ever watched. I wasn't a big basketball guy, right? I played it, I didn't really follow it, and that watching him play, the creativity, the excitement that he can generate, he's the reason I fell in love with basketball, right? So this is tough for me to say, but at this point, I would take a salary dump for LaMelo Ball, right? And the way I kind of look at that is, I know that's maybe an outrageous thing to say, but the way I look at that is, you compare it to the Zion situation, right? The Pelicans have given Zion Williamson 7 years now. It hasn't worked. Nothing's come of it. He's never played in a playoff game, right? They've only made one playoff series as a team.
Shocker, he was hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt, of course. They've built a number of iterations around him, and it's never come to anything. So at what point do you just cut ties and try and work towards what's next, right? And with LaMelo Ball, the contract that he has the potential, with another season of injuries, to become one of the worst contracts in the NBA, if it isn't already there. And it's going to get to a point where if we don't move off this contract as soon as possible, this is going to be an unmovable deal. And we're going to be forced to be stuck in a cycle of just destruction, where every single year they have to form a new team around LaMelo, because of course you can't trade him, and every single year we're let down because the team is built around LaMelo and LaMelo isn't out there. LaMelo can't be relied upon. And so, of course, man, if you can get 10 first-round picks, right, I as a Hornets fan, I'd be thrilled, right? But I don't think that's realistic. And if the trade that you're talking about isn't out there, man, I wouldn't celebrate a salary dump, but I wouldn't be mad at it. You know what I mean? And we're at the point where if he goes off somewhere else and is incredible, it is what it is. We did what we could, right? Nothing here was within our control, really. Of course, there's been plenty of mistakes, but in terms of the reason the trade goes through isn't because of the lack of team success. It's because of the lack of team success due to LaMelo's inability to stay on the floor, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I look at it, right? And so, have you given any thought to, I guess, potential trade partners at all? I know it's tough. It's a tough market out there right now.
Yeah, Is there a world where Clippers are always rumored, even though they don't have the stuff? If you're talking salary dump, Clippers want to blow it up and do some stuff. Do you just go trade for like LaMelo for James Harden? Like maybe I should put in the trade machine, like LaMelo and Pat Connaughton for James Harden and Derrick Jones Jr. Like, is that a trade you make? Its salaries work. You get both of those guys are 2 more years of deals. You have a veteran in James Harden who's playing well, who run your offense, facilitate. You know that he can do that. You get Derrick Jones Jr., which is a value wing. And then I think if you trade LaMelo, you also trade Miles Bridges. I think the only reason Miles Bridges is still on this team is because him and LaMelo are friends, you know? Like, I think that's so Miles Bridges can go too, but Derrick Jones Jr. is someone I've always liked watching basketball. He's a good defender, 100%. High flyer. He's fun to watch.
So great on
as
defense.
A backup 3, you could trade him like because I see if you trade LaMelo, you probably trade Miles Bridges. I think you probably trade Josh Green too. I think he's a guy who'll be on the move once he's healthy. I think deadline. I think once the deadline comes, you can teams. Because let's be real, the viewing of the Hornets is that we're a bad franchise. We don't know what we're doing. You know, like that's kind of how people see us. So if Josh Green comes back from an injury and he's playing they'll be like, oh well, he's just the Hornets. He has this upside to him. He'll help the team go to the finals. We'll trade for him, you know, and get maybe like a heavily protected first or a couple of seconds or just a young guy who and then you get off that contract. But like maybe like a hard trade, you send LaMelo, you honor his wishes and send him back to California and do all that.
Yeah, okay, I like that. In some ways, I don't think the Clippers really are all that interested in it right now. However, what I could see potentially looking into the Clippers is off-season hits. The Clippers have a lot of money off their books. They could do that trade, and they'd be able to pair LaMelo with if they can get the promise of this, Austin Reeves, and they can have a backcourt of LaMelo Ball and Austin Reeves. Right, they have the money for it. So if they can get some kind of guarantee that Austin Reeves is interested and willing to sign for the Clippers, I think a LaMelo and Austin Reeves backcourt is a really interesting move towards the future for the Clippers. And at that point, James Harden will be an expiring contract. And it's all situational. I don't think that's a move you can kind of do right now. I don't think the Clippers would be all that interested in it because James Harden is a very valuable asset. He's playing incredibly well right now. He's displaying that he's going to be able to continue to do this for a number of years, right? And he's going to be able to continue to run an offense well into his late 30s. And so I don't think that's a move they do right now. If that's offered, that's the Hornets jump at that. But I think, and this isn't just you, this is Charlotte as a whole. I feel like we're massively overestimating LaMelo Ball's value. There's a very good chance that right now LaMelo Ball has negative value because of the contract. The situation I'm talking about in next year could already be here. We're not in these front offices, but there's a real chance that's already there. I mean, the injury track record is there for you to look at.
Yeah, no, definitely. I could definitely see that. I'm just somebody, I feel like LaMelo to a degree is holding this team where you can't do anything. Like you have to constantly build around him. And it just holds you up,
And that's why, you make the move. Even, you're probably going to lose that trade, or you almost definitely will, in a salary dump. But it just kind of saves you from this inescapable loop of kind of letdowns. You know what I mean?
And if you move him, then you can move, like I said, Miles Bridges and like Josh Green and stuff like that. You can maybe win those trades and kind of get some of that value back a little bit.
I mean, personally, I see it all the time, man. Hornets fans hate Miles Bridges. I mean, that stuff aside, right? Mm-hmm. I think Miles Bridges is awesome for this team, man. I mean, he's playing pretty poor, right? That's obvious. But in terms of what he provides, I mean, Miles Bridges is the idea of Hornets DNA encapsulated. He is the leader of this team, quite clearly. All of the younger guys look up to him. He's the one that's most kind of what's the word? I mean, we hear from guys every offseason. We see on their social media working out with Miles Bridges, right? Getting working. Just every other day on Miles Bridges' story, he's working out with a new Hornets player. Man, I haven't seen. When was the last time you saw LaMelo Ball post something with another Hornets player, right? Or with a teammate in the gym, right? And you don't see that from anyone else on this team. And it's these small things, but I mean, I really believe that Hornets DNA can be a real thing. That's why I believe in Charles Lee, because I think that if he can get this Hornets DNA thing to work, there's a real chance the culture can change, and the culture is already shifting, right? I mean, the Summer League Championship, laugh at it all you want, right? Kon Knueppel, and as mature and well-spoken as he is, and the moves that this front office is making, it's really starting to change the culture, and not the perception as of yet. You need results for that, but the culture is changing, and because of that, I really do believe in Hornets DNA, and I think that
my cat hopped on my lap. He wants to listen.
I really do believe that the player that best represents Hornets DNA and best kind of promotes that and that theory is Miles Bridges, which is why, and again, he's not playing well. That's objective, right? And at times he's hard to watch, but I think he's a core piece of this team. I really do.
Yeah, I would agree with you more if we didn't have these rookies who also are very much like that. Those dogs. I'm here to work hard. I'm here to with like the team. You hear them talk about like how the rookies approach everything.
I mean, man, every rookie comes in trying to play hard, right?
Yeah.
It's when the money starts to hit. They're in their third. They get to their second contract. They're locked in. That's when some habits can start to slip. Having guys like Miles Bridges in the locker room prevents that. I mean, every rookie that comes into the NBA is like, I'm bound to work my ass off. I'm about to, I'm going to be the best to ever do it, right? Even the guys that come in drafted to be role players and say, hey, I'm going to be a role player. I'm going to be off the ball. Everyone in there is a competitive beast. To get to the NBA, you have to be a competitive beast. Everyone wants to be the best there ever is. Once you get to that second contract, once you're guaranteed generational wealth, and there's no kind of, risk to losing it all, and none of this working out, that's when some of these guys' motivations can start to slip. And I think, as you said, we have a great rookie class, and I doubt that'll happen with any of them, right? But I think just generally speaking, we got lucky with these four.
Yeah,
the next guys that are coming in probably won't all be the same. The guys in the 2024 class probably won't all be the same, right? And so having guys like Miles Bridges on your roster is integral, I believe, to the growth of this franchise and the way they're perceived around the league.
I will say though that I think that the Hornets make it a point to go after those guys who are face of the grindstone, constantly working, constantly trying to improve. I know that's kind of the MO with professional athletes, but even Tijon might not be that, have been raw, but he's a super hard worker. That's kind of like the shtick of the guys that they want now. And these rookies feel different, which is all I was saying there, is that you have with how this front office is building this team. All of the guys that are coming in, or most all the guys that are coming in, have that kind of mindset to them. And Miles Bridges, he hasn't played that well. He also has all the off the court stuff. He's kind of like him and LaMelo, and LaMelo's still good enough that it's not a stain, but Miles Bridges is kind of the last stain from the last front office,
Yeah.
Where you could just move off of him and be like, hey, this is a totally new team. If you trade LaMelo and Miles Bridges, this is a totally different team than what that you took over. Brandon Miller is the only guy who was drafted by the previous regime at that point, right? He'd be, yeah. And I guess, no, because they drafted Tijon. So, yeah, it would just be Brandon Miller's the only guy who was drafted, and he was there, when everybody came in, he fits what they're trying to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. All right, moving on now to Brandon Miller and kind of what his potential can be. I mean, obviously, you look at the Hornets, the three first guys you named as part of the core, LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Kon Knueppel, right? These are the building blocks around the franchise. Now, I kind of want to discuss what Brandon could be, because he's obviously this guy that can be a perennial All-NBA player in theory, right? But There's been some struggles hitting the court. There's been some dips and divots in play and performance, especially over the course of this year. Of course, he's recovering from an injury. I guess I kind of want to discuss what you think Brandon can be, and I guess how important he is to this court. Can the Hornets, let's say Brandon doesn't work out, does that completely reset the Hornets?
If Brandon's work out, yeah, it totally resets the Hornets. But I don't think he's not. I think he's gonna work out just fine. If that makes any sense. I don't know if you remember his first game as a Hornet ever. He hit. I'm trying to remember who we were playing. I was at the game. He hit a couple late threes.
Yes. Oh, I remember Eric Holmes going crazy over these. Yeah.
It was against Atlanta. He hit a bunch of late threes. He went 3 for 7 from the field, and we won the game because of his heroics at the end. I bought a Brandon Miller jersey that night. I in the arena, I was at the game. I bought a Brandon Miller jersey that night. I said, "This kid is special," and he's had the injuries, yes, but I will say it's not like a LaMelo situation where it's kind of the same things are bothering him. He had a freak hand injury, which just happened. Bradley Beal had that injury. Jaylen Brown had that injury. Ended up being fine afterwards, and then he had the shoulder subluxation, which was just an unfortunate thing where he's playing hard defense and a guy runs into him, overextending his arm. If he has another random injury where he maybe has weaker ligaments, then maybe I'm concerned. But those are two kind of freak things. Those are just two things that happen to happen. I'm not worried about his injury luck, or injury concern with him, unless it keeps happening. Which I think that it was just two unlucky plays. I think he came down on his hand funny when he hurt the ligament. It's just one of those things. Speaking of that, Hornets PR just tweeted that Liam McNeely was the sign of the Greensboro Swarm.
All right, that's awesome.
It's good for him.
I'm assuming that means probably Josh is back as well soon.
He's got to be back. I think he'll probably be back next game. We have a little bit of a break. Yeah. But Brandon Miller can be so special, man. He's just a fun watch. He's explosive. He shoots the ball well. They're letting him shoot mid-range shots again now, which, he kind of was short-arming some of them against the Denver game. I was getting a little frustrated with him at the end of that game. But he is still getting back into it. He couldn't shoot all off-season, and then he hurt his shoulder where he couldn't shoot again. So, I'm going to give him a little bit of a break on the shooting issues, but his ball handling is better. He's passing the ball better. He's doing everything but shooting better, which is a big thing for me.
Yes, and that's exactly why I'm so confident and willing to let LaMelo Ball go, because Brandon Miller has really emerged as a primary ball handler, right? I got some numbers here, right? Brandon has a 30.3 usage percentage, which is a career high and is in the 99th percentile of the NBA, right? He has a 19.7 assist percentage, which is in the 93rd percentile of the NBA. He has established himself as a premier ball handler, or having the potential to be, and someone that can be an engine for this offense, right? I think that if we can move off of LaMelo, maybe get a point guard in the draft, having another point guard who can sometimes handle the ball, and Brandon being the true engine of the offense, right? Brandon is able to create so much for himself, but he's also incredibly versatile in terms of being able to operate off the ball as well. 89% of his three-point makes were assisted on this season so far, which is obviously a huge amount, right? He's moving a lot the ball. He's using his gravity. He's making it mature. Sometimes the biggest thing I think between a player reaching their potential and becoming a star and them kind of plateauing out is that little moment where it just clicks in their brain, where they realize, hey, I have all of this gravity. Look what I can do for my team without even having to have the ball. And he's doing that, right? And then when he's on the ball, he's drawing double teams. He's splitting them. He's looking great, man. He's getting to the rim. The Hornets have a plus 4.8 free throw rate with Brandon on the floor, which is in the 98th percentile in the NBA, right? He creates so much for this team. And that's not all just him getting to the rim. That's him creating looks for others who are getting to the rim, right? Getting inside and dumping that off. He's putting pressure on the paint. He's able to score from all three levels. And his defense isn't incredible, right? It's getting better and better and better, but he has the tools, he has the athleticism, and he has the willingness. He's been a leader since year one. Do you remember that play in year one where the corner three in transition defense and Brennan's the only one who actually ran back, and he looks back and what does he do? He screams at his vets. He looks behind and he screams at Gordon Hayward, someone 10 years, 10 years his senior, and says, "Get the back, right? What are you doing?" That is a leader. That is someone that you build your franchise around. And again, that's why I'm so confident in moving off of LaMelo Ball, because you have Brendan, and we'll speak to it later, Kon Knueppel, guys who are actually real leaders and dictate your offense and can establish a culture. And I think Brandon has the potential to be, as I said, a perennial All-NBA guy, right? There's not that many players in the world that can make the 3-level impact that he can, has the athleticism that he has, the frame that he has, and then, as I said, all the intangible qualities, the leadership. Now, there's, I can count a number of guys on this planet like that on one hand, right? Brandon Miller has the potential to be the franchise guy. I know some people are looking at, and he's my bet to be, right? Some people are looking at Kon Knueppel and saying, he's had this incredible start to his career, right? He's shooting the ball incredibly well. Realistically, I think it's Brandon Miller that's going to be the future and the face of this franchise, and Kon Knueppel is going to be a supercharged second option, right? And as we'll touch more on Kon later, but the future of this franchise without LaMelo Ball looks safe. It looks secure because they have Brandon Miller at the helm. And as you said, a lot of people speak on the injury issues. As you said, I don't believe in them because it's 2 freak accidents. And in terms of the shooting stuff, right, the shooting issues, he had, as you said, surgery over the offseason, and then he had a shoulder injury. He's had no ability to get into any kind of flow with his jump shot. And so he's proven himself every single year of his career as a shooter. High school, he was a shooter. In college, he was an incredible shooter, especially from 3. You go into his rookie year, he wasn't doing it from 3 as much, but where was he knocking down his shots? In the mid-range, off the dribble, right? Consistently creating and knocking down these shots for himself. And then Charles Lee comes in. Suddenly, he's taking all these threes, and what does he do? He's efficient with it. He's a great shooter. On and off the ball, off the dribble, off the catch, he can shoot the ball. I think people are putting way too much stock into the start of this season, which has been completely halted by injury. He's been, as I said, he's been unable to get into any kind of flow. And I think there needs to be a little bit more patience with his play. I mean, his play has been great. His shooting, and the way he's actually using his play to convert.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think once he gets that flow, he's going to have a jump again. Like, you look at a guy like Jalen Johnson, per se. Look at what he's doing this year. I could see Brandon Miller making a leap like that. Maybe not like even with the rebound, because I mean, Brandon's only averaged like 5 rebounds, like the most in his career, 4.9. But the Charles Lee's having guards and wings rebound the ball more. There's a real world where at the end of the season Brandon's averaging 23 with 8 boards and 5 assists.
Yeah, 100%. This is a guy that can, as I said, score on all 3 levels, go 2 ways, and pass the ball and create shots and be an engine to an offense. Very similar to Jalen Johnson, and I'm a big Jalen Johnson guy. So if we can get a Jalen Johnson-esque, even without rebounding, player in Charlotte and have him be the leader of this franchise, I am all in on that, especially with the guys around him. And then we'll move on to Kon Knueppel now. Kon Knueppel has obviously had an incredible start to his rookie season. He has been super, super special. He's really exceeded anyone's expectations of him, right? I mean, I was someone who was very, very high on his upside as a ball handler and creator coming out of the draft in comparison to everyone else, right? Because of what he was able to display with Cooper Flag out, especially out of the pick and roll, especially out of that short roll. I never expected this. I'm going to run you through some numbers now. On offense, he has a 20% usage, which is in the 78th percentile, right?
Crazy.
That doesn't sound like a lot, but for a guy that was purely a role player, a guy that was going to be moving off the ball and shooting only, right? that's nuts, right? He has a 14.7 assist percentage, which is in the 77th percentile of the NBA. That's nuts as well, right? He's creating, and with him on the floor, with his shooting and his spacing, the team shoots 9.8% better at the rim, which is in the 97th percentile with him on the floor. And that's because of the space and the gravity he creates, not just his shooting, not just handling the ball, but with his ability to move off the ball and create holes in the defense, which is allowing guys to get back cuts and get to the rim a lot easier and get much better looks at the rim, right? This is a guy that can be whatever he really wants to be. I mean, the sky is the limit. He could go either way, right? He could, descend back into kind of that elite role player sort of archetype, and be very, very good at that. But there's also a very real chance that we're looking at a guy who can be an elite secondary option on a very, very good team. You're looking at a guy, as I say, can handle the ball, makes really well out of the pick and roll. So something I think that's gone under the radar is his ability to create as a roller out of that short roll, right? Charles Lee loves to run these guard actions. And sometimes it's Sion, but usually it's Kon setting these screens and then making plays out of the short roll, and it's been really, really effective thus far, right? This, as I said, this is a guy that can really do anything, and there's just, I think that this is a really special player, and I think the thing that's gone most unnoticed so far is the defense. I got some more numbers here I want to go through, right? Because he is slow-footed. This is not a guy that should be good at defense, but he is so intelligent that he's able to, and I think that he went into this a little bit in an interview. He knows that he isn't ever going to be able to beat someone with his speed, but what he can do, right, is kind of predict what they're going to do with his IQ, with his intelligence, and beat them to their spots. And because of that, he's actually become not just a okay defender, not just a good defender, but a great defender, right? Teams shoot 6.4% less threes with Kon on the floor, which is in the 99th percentile in the entire NBA. And teams shoot 5.1% worse from three with Kon on the floor, which is in the 90th percentile in the NBA. This is a guy that is actively, he's not getting, the Dyson Daniels numbers, 5, 6 deflections a game. It's not flashy. You might not even really notice it, right? But with his ability to stay in front and shut down any kind of creation around the perimeter, he's become an actual great, maybe even by the end of the year, he could be an elite defender. Because there is a handful of guys in the entire NBA that is able to actually put a complete stop on what an offense is trying to do. And what an offense is trying to do in 2025, they're trying to shoot threes. Kon is actively preventing that, right? Not on his own. I don't want to say on his own, but I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, right? This is 99th and 90th percentile numbers around the entire NBA. That's nuts. Did you expect that coming into the year?
God, no. It's so, we have me and Doug do the show. We got to get you on soon, by the way. We were talking about how we the ceilings we had for Kon, and we joked that we have to get permits because we have to remodel the ceiling because it's way higher than we thought it was gonna be. It's simple. It's ridiculous what he's doing, and I was giving him Desmond Bane, maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit more facilitator-esque Desmond Bane comps coming out of college, and now I'm is he just a thicker Devin Booker? That's what it feels more like, especially the way.
I hear that all the time. I don't really see it. So can you kind of walk me through that?
Just a guy who plays so super well off ball. Desmond Bane, he was a better passer than Desmond Bane coming out of college, but as a premier 3-point shooter who can do a little bit more. It wasn't the perfect comp, but I saw it a lot, and I was looking at things. I'm like, oh yeah, I see this. Where it's he's bigger than Desmond Bane. He's stronger than Desmond Bane. He's better. He was better than Desmond Bane. But it was more like a guy who could be that third option, fourth option as a shooter who could do a little bit more. He's not just I'm just gonna knock down a shooter. I'm not a Luke Kennard. It's Desmond Bane's that next step up who can shoot and also do a little bit more. But he's closer like Devin Booker. I think Kon being just a little bit on he's not a big guy, but he's just like a little thicker the way he's built. I think if he was a little thinner, people would have been a lot higher on him. I know that sounds like crazy to say, but if he would just like had that more traditional like scorer build,
he look just like he moves. I see what you mean.
Yeah, like he looks like he moves slower because of how he's built. If he was, a little thinner, he would have had more like Devin Booker comps. But I mean, look at him get up on Miles Turner there. Like his explosiveness is ridiculous. You were talking about his defense and how he might get beat, but he's smart. He had a play against the Nuggets where he got turned around on a crossover. I think it was Jamal Murray. Got turned around on a crossover and then not looking at the ball, reached out because he knew where the pass was coming and picked the pass off. So he got beat, but knew how the offense flowed and got a turnover off of a mistake, essentially. He's so smart. He's so good. He's going to be a cornerstone of this franchise. I think that he could be a number 2 option. Like I said, people talk about Devin Booker comps, and I see that more and more every day. Every time I watch him play, because how smart he is, how efficient he is, how he's. We talked about Brandon Miller as a 3-level scorer. Kon Knueppel might be a better 3-level scorer than Brandon Miller. It was just crazy to say.
Look, I think that Kon is the way I look at it is he's probably at best maybe not at best, but realistically he's probably the second best player on this team going forward behind Brandon Miller in a LaMelo-less world, right? But I think that even in that scenario, he will be the most important player on this team.
Yes.
He doesn't have to be the best. He doesn't have to be the primary engine, but this team functions so much better with him on the floor. And this is him as a rookie, right? This man's 20 years old. Imagine what he can do when he's 25. Imagine what he can do when he's 30, right? With 10 years of NBA experience. I mean, this dude is 20 games into an NBA career and making plays that, frankly, I've never seen guys like LaMelo be able to make it and read, who's been in the NBA for 7 years and should know the ins and outs. And he probably knows the ins and outs better than most, but Kon Knueppel is so far ahead, right? And just so intelligent. I think that the way I kind of look at him is he's a blend of Klay Thompson and Jimmy Butler.
I like that.
In terms of the footwork and the movement of Jimmy Butler, the ability to get to the rim, the 3-level scoring, and then of course the shooting and the movement of Klay Thompson. Now, I don't think he's going to be Klay Thompson on defense realistically, but I think there's a chance he gets there. He's probably going to be in a similar tier, right?
Yeah, I mean, offensively, you can tell he watched a lot of Klay Thompson film.
For sure. But I mean, defensively, I don't think he's going to be a perennial all-defense guy, one of the best defenders in the league, right? But I think that he can become a very, very good defender, which is crazy when you complement that with what he's able to provide you on offense and the amount of energy that he's going to be expelling on offense, because he's constantly moving, right? I think that Kon Knueppel has... I can't tell you what Kon can be, right? Mm-hmm. And I've watched Kon Knueppel since he was 15, 16 years old, right? I'm in the scouting industry. That's what I do. I scout these guys from a very, very young age. He came into the NBA and I was quite sure of what he was and what he can be. 20 games into his career, I have no idea what he's going to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely no idea. And that's exciting, right? That's kind of, we haven't really seen that ever with a Hornets rookie, to where, some guys have come in and exceeded expectations. Some guys have come in and not lived up to expectations, but we usually have an idea of what a player is going to be. We usually have a peg, I guess, what the future of this franchise looks like with that player. I don't see that with Kon. Kon could be anywhere between the first and fourth best player on a championship team. I believe that. Right. I don't know where to peg this guy, and it's exciting, right? It gives you a reason. I mean, of course, I'm watching all the games because it's my job, but for a casual fan, it gives you a reason to shoot in every single game, and that's why. I mean, he's so marketable, and that's why he's on Jimmy Fallon, right? That's why people are marking him as the face of the franchise, because right now, as exciting as LaMelo Ball is, as exciting as Brandon Miller can be, there's this mystery around Kon Knueppel that I think is really drawing people in.
As somebody who's been in the arena, 4 games, a fair amount this year, he almost gets a louder crowd pop than LaMelo does when they're not calling the lineups, which is crazy. Like, LaMelo obviously is louder, but he's like right there. It's ridiculous. And I mean, it helps that he went to Duke, so that like the North Carolina, faithful, North Carolina basketball fans, period. Like, Duke and UNC fans are, it's so intensive. Even NC State, like those, it's a basketball state through and through, which helps so much. But, I have a question for you as a guy who scouts. Do you think how well Kon is playing is going to change how they scout players and how the NBA look at players in a similar way that they change how people look at people like Kawhi coming out of, when he came out of college, or people were taking swings on like Patrick Williams because they're like, oh, I could see like the athletic, strong, good defender who could have offensive upside. Like, do you think that's going to change how? Are we going to have a couple of like 6'7" white guys coming in with crazy expectations who aren't going to perform as well?
I don't think so, because I think what has been the swing here for Kon, I mean, we all knew he could do what he's been doing offensively. We didn't know he could, for sure, that he could play make like this, because we'd seen it in small samples with Cooper Flag out for 3 games, and it looked promising, right? But realistically, if scouts bought into every 3-game hot streak, 3-game blip, then the league would be filled with guys that don't make it, right? It's kind of, I think Kon's the exception here, because he wasn't kind of, we weren't able to see what made him special for a long enough period of time. So I think it's more just kind of the luck of the draw in terms of how Kon turned out. You know what I mean? I don't think there's not many examples of guys that can that have an arc like this.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I just remember like the Kawhi comps. I feel like if a player got a Kawhi comp, they're almost cursed. It was just Scotty Barnes was the only one that came out. Like, oh, he ended up being something.
And he looks nothing like Kawhi.
Nothing at all. It's so funny. I went to Duke's first round of the March Madness last year when they played Mount St. Mary, and Kon had he didn't have a good game, and then I was like, oh, I was so excited to watch all these Duke guys play. Kwame Malwatch had a decent game. Cooper Flag, Tyrese Proctor had a great game. He had 19 points, but Kon had 6, and he went 1 for 4 from 3. So I was like, oh, I've been watching him, but I'm like, oh, I was kind of bummed he didn't play well. And then at every game I've seen him play since then, he's been elite, because I've only seen him play for Charlotte, and he's been having awesome games. But I'm just so high on Kon. My aunt and uncle just had a baby, and his name is Conrad, and I just call him Kon.
That's great.
I want to get him a Kon Knueppel jersey so bad.
Oh man, get him one of those little
onesie jerseys.
And they're so cute. I love them so much, man.
But Kon just gets me so hyped. He gets me so excited. He's just special. He's just special. All you can say is and everything that he does just feels so sustainable too. It's not like he's like on a crazy streak. Like, yeah, I know he's shooting a high percentage, but even if he regresses, he's gonna regress like 40%. Like, it's not like he's regressing to
He said in that interview, man, he's like, man, I guess this is hot streak. I guess I'll probably regress to 40% at some point. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say in an interview regress to 40%. I've never heard that in life. I did a little tweet about it, and I mean, Kon's mum replied to the tweet, was like, and the little laughing emoji, because it is kind of crazy. I mean, we've never seen a player come into the NBA this, not just skilled from 3, but well-rounded from 3. We've never seen someone that's able to not only knock down the 3 like this. Like, we've seen some guys, maybe not up to this level, but of this caliber. Like, just last year we had Reed Shepherd, right? Reed Shepherd was the most incredible shooter coming out of college. I think he averaged like 45% from 3 over the whole year at Kentucky. And we've seen guys hit similar peaks as prospects in terms of shooting as Kon. We've never seen someone as well-rounded in terms of being able to do it off the catch, off the dribble, move off the ball, uses gravity, have the IQ and the spatial awareness. All of that stuff comes into being an effective shooter at the NBA level, and he has all of it in an abundance that we've never seen before, right? This is a very, very, very special talent.
For real. He's shooting 40% now, 40.3%. On 8.4%. 8.4 attempts. It's just ridiculous. I mean, he's such a talent, dude. He everything he does, like scoring wise, I feel like if the ball is gonna go in every time he shoots it, even like the free throw line, is he gonna make it or is he gonna miss it? And like, is he even gonna hit the rim at the free throws? He makes me so excited for the future of this team. Where like how good he is, especially, but how good Brandon can be. I'm like, it comes to the point where like maybe it's time to just move off of LaMelo and reset and build off of these guys, and maybe get like a Phylon or a Mikal Brown in the draft, and just get you your next point guard and have all these young guys together.
Yeah, you don't need. I mean, as I said, you don't really need like a. I think if we move off LaMelo, going for another LaMelo-esque player would be a massive mistake in terms of like a point guard that can dominate the ball and be like this like heliocentric kind of player. I think what the team should be looking for in a LaMelo-less world, in a world where we move off LaMelo ball, the archetype we should be looking for in the draft is a point guard that can play make consistently. Right, doesn't have to average 10 assists again, doesn't have to average 20-point game, but just someone that can get the offense flowing, can be relied upon if one of the other guys is out. Your Brandons and your Kons, your two main players, your two main stars are out, and someone that can be impactful on the defensive side of the ball. Right, if you can find someone like that, I mean, even like a lower level to some extent, Jalen Suggs, you're probably not going to find a defensive player of Jalen Suggs' caliber in the draft. They're few and far between, right? Especially at the kind of top, because players aren't usually skilled at playmaking and defense. But someone that's just a competent and impactful defender, right, that can get you stops and is a reliable playmaker. I think with that, the core of Kon Knueppel and Brandon Miller at the helm and running the ball and being the engines of the offense, right, in whatever order you want to say, 1A, 1B. And then finding, I'm still a believer in Tajan at the 4, right, long term. And if Tajan works out, that's great. If he doesn't, is what it is. I mean, there's plenty of floor spacing 4s you can find, right, for 15 to 20 million a year, right? That can be our, Houston Rockets throw out a bag to a veteran free agency move, right?
Yeah.
And then if you can just find a competent center, someone, you don't need an all-star center, you don't need someone who's going to average 20 and 10, but if you can find someone of a Mitchell Robinson caliber, right? Got hopefully more healthy, right? But someone of that kind of caliber, and then having the Musa Diabate and Ryan Tucker behind him. I mean, that's one of the best center rotations in the NBA by far, right? It has an argument to be the best, right? That gives you 3 different types of looks, 3 guys who can give you 25 really, really good minutes every single night. That's like that core right there would move me towards this team being a playoff team and eventually a perennial contender. And then beyond that, I mean, the assets this team has, you can cash those chips in, maybe get an all-star caliber guy, and you have a real contender in the Eastern Conference, right? That's a realistic path 3 years down the line. Everything I just said is incredibly realistic, achievable, and attainable, right? I think it all just kind of starts with moving off LaMelo Ball. I think that's kind of where this franchise turns itself around. And that's not because I think LaMelo Ball's a losing player. I mean, I kind of bashed LaMelo Ball at the start of the game, at the start of the stream, sorry. I think LaMelo Ball's absolutely a winning player. I think he is one of the win. I mean, look at first 2 years of his career, he was dragging this team with Gordon Hayward as his second best player, right? Old Gordon Hayward as his second best player to the play-in, right? And the team in the second year, in his All-Star year, would have been a clear playoff team. They would have been 5 seed if they didn't have that awful February slump, right? This is a guy that has established himself as a winning player at every single level. He's had a few rough years due to injury. He hasn't been able to get into a flow, right? And I think between that and a play style that is typically created as a losing play style, he's kind of got that losing kind of tag attached to his name. I don't think that's the truth, right? But with that said, based on the way that this team is structured, based on where I think this team is best off going, I think success for this team starts with the departure of LaMelo Ball.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, man. And look, I think LaMelo Ball, I mean, we'll circle back here to the first talk before we wrap this up. I think LaMelo Ball is one of the 10 most talented guys in the NBA, right? But the fact is, it's impossible to move forward if you're going to be stuck in the same cycle every single year, right? You can add as much talent as you want around LaMelo, but the fact is, if he's not on the floor, and when he's on the floor, he isn't consistent with his play, it's you're going to be stuck in this same cycle, rinse and repeat of disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, I mean, you're lucky because you've built this team around LaMelo, and it seems like it could also, your two main pieces, Brandon and Kon, fit awesome together on their own. You don't need LaMelo there, right? And they've gotten lucky with that because of the progression of Kon as a playmaker, or the kind of appearance of Kon as a playmaker, as a primary guy. And so that's kind of the way I view the future of the Hornets going forward. I think it's really promising. Do you have any sort of closing remarks on that before we wrap this up?
I mean, I feel like that's a good place to end it.
All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Evan, for your time. Evan, do you want to just plug whatever you want to plug?
I mean, Hailstorm Sports is all my stuff. I'm on YouTube. It's Hailstorm Sports. It's at the Real Evan Hale on Twitter. I just started a TikTok, this Hailstorm Sports. Made a video about Jalen Johnson. I'll make a long form video about that on YouTube here soon. Just give me a follow. I like talking ball.
And you can find both our work over on Every Hornets Box Score.
Yes.
Alongside Branson. We work together over there. And yeah, thank you for tuning in to Nick Thomas on the NBA. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.